everyone, AmFest 2023, your host, Erica Reddick here on Generally Irritable. I'm very excited to have a congressional candidate from Colorado, District 7. What part of Colorado is that?
So it's actually a pretty large district. It takes up about, I would say, 8 counties, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Everything from urban Denver area to rural counties. And I actually live in a rural county, Chaffee County.
All right. So now my aunts and uncles all live in Brighton or Littleton. Would you be their congressperson?
In Littleton, I think Jefferson County is part of Littleton, but not all of it. So I think the other part is in Douglas County or something. So it's possible.
Okay. All right. I'm going to call my family. I'm going to tell them all that they have to check you out.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So we've got Patrick Bohan here, District 7 candidate for Colorado Congress. That is a lot of C's to put in there, y'all. Now, he's also an author, you guys. I'm super excited. We were just talking about his book about constitutional rights, our God-given fundamental rights, and the constitutional effort to mitigate, infringe, and violate them. You guys, this looks good. Before we started rolling, we were actually talking about, what kind of brought you to your passion for Constitution, what had you decide to start running, and it's interesting because a lot of times we do hear from folks that it was some major thing that they had to overcome in their life that led them to God, that led them to conservatism. And you said for you, it was a bike accident, a racing accident, right?
Yeah, a racing accident from 3 years ago.
Okay.
And so, we were talking about that, I went through major reconstructive surgery of my face, my shoulder. All my injuries were basically from the hip up and this side of my body. And so, and then what the real kicker, that wasn't the problem really. There wasn't 30 broken bones and the surgeries. It was the subsequent infection that I got in the hospital that almost killed me. I got what's called a toxic megacolon, and I really thought that was it. And so I said goodbye to my wife, and I believe I was explaining to you that I don't really know exactly what happened, but I thought I'd be afraid. Yeah. But I was kind of calm about it.
Yeah. So you felt like a peace about it, or like maybe like you were like somebody was there with you, or?
I'm not gonna essentially say that, but like I told you before, I was already studying constitutional law, and I was kind of. I only thought that the only thing that really made sense was the natural law aspect of it.
Right.
The law is very confusing.
Oh, yeah, because the Constitution, let's be real, y'all. The Constitution and the amendments were all written by a bunch of lawyers, okay? And lawyers from the, 18th century are no better than the lawyers today. They write a bunch of crap and you can barely understand what they're saying, right? But God-given rights, natural law...
But I do believe that our founders were Christian men for the most part. Some of them were a little more secular than others, but
they were all theists, though.
They were, and I believe that they were divinely inspired by what I think is the first law book is the Constitution, and so and in this book I discern what our rights are. So it's not just it's if I could find them in the Bible, if I could discern them, because there's a lot of fictitious rights out there too, right?
Yep.
Because the government can't create a right.
That's right.
And so, but they do. And they think that they can improve rights, but if rights come from God, you can't improve something. It's kind of the right to work. It's not in the Constitution, but it's a principle that you can find in the Bible.
I think only leftists could be so arrogant as to say, I think I could do it just a little bit better than Jesus did.
Well, that's I think I may make the comment in the book that people are trying to play God. So in other words, trying to make the right to work better. How do they do that? Oh, well, let's go and say, oh, everyone has to get a $15 minimum wage.
Yep.
And if that may improve somebody's right to work a little bit better than another person's.
Right.
But in the long run, what's going to happen, right, is that people are going to lose their jobs.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's going to be passed on to the consumer.
Yeah.
So people are going to have less choices later on because they're going to have less money.
Right.
So people are going to lose their rights. And so you can't improve it.
That's right.
And so just by interfering in something, they think they can improve it, but they can't.
And
so go ahead.
No, okay, so Patrick, you had basically, essentially, you had started getting reacquainted with natural law. You had a near-death experience. It got you fired up for the Lord again, right? You said, so you started digging into the Bible. You've started doing this. Now, what happened to have you decide to run for office?
Well, there was an interesting passage in there, and I believe it's, and I may have actually explained this to your husband.
Oh,
earlier.
all right. Yeah, we got Lord Benjamin behind the camera today.
I think it's Judges 8:9 through 15 or 9:8 through 15.
Judges something.
So in Judges, there's this parable, and it really stuck with me. It's in this parable, there's all these different healthy trees, and each one gets asked, "Will you be our king?" And this is probably at a time when the Israelites were trying to be ruled by a king instead of by judges.
Right, exactly.
And so they're asking each of these trees, will you be king? And they each declined. They said, "Why would I do that? I'm healthy. I'm good." And so it finally says, well, let's go ask this thorny shrub bush, and it says, "Oh, I'll be happy to be your king." And so what I took from that, and I maybe I'm interpreting this wrong, and pastors are probably saying, "Oh, he got it all wrong," but I'm saying that good people don't want to be part of a corrupt system, and so
that is very true.
It's only the corrupt people that want to be part of it. And so that kind of resonated with me because I'm like, I really don't want to be part of that.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm running as a libertarian, because I think the only way to say that I'm not going to be tied to anybody, I'm not going to, if I go to Congress, I'm not going to caucus with either a Republican or a Democrat because I want to be my own person. And the only way to do that and not say, "Oh, well, I'm going to give up my principles to vote with this person because they're going to do this for me," some kind of quid pro quo. And I don't want to be in that kind of category.
Yeah.
And I know it's an uphill battle as a libertarian, but I still have, I think, very conservative, Christian values that.
Yeah.
And
well, a lot of people don't understand what it actually means to be a libertarian, and I think that's one of the things that people don't realize. Like, they see the crazies on TV talking about open borders and getting rid of driver's licenses, and that's not fair. They're not crazy. That's their opinion, whatever. But that's what people think libertarians are. And so sometimes it's just overcoming the misunderstanding of what people think it means. Like,
I actually think libertarians are more centrist than the others, because there's some aspects that, for example, libertarians do not like war.
Right. They're very anti-war, anti-intervention.
That's a very, for the most part, has been a liberal kind of policy, right?
Yep.
But there's I think a lot more aspects that overlap with conservatism.
There's so many. We have long said that Libertarians and Republicans, while they may have many disagreements over a lot of things, we are much more aligned than the other team. And maybe people need to just work together to solve problems and figure things out. And I think that, you know, I've long said the Libertarian Party, I think, is the way to help restore sanity to this country, because it is such an open, because there's such a wide range of beliefs in the Libertarian Party that anybody who's a reasonable, rational person can find a place there.
The thing that stuck with me with as a libertarian, I'm not going to Congress to push my ideology. I'm not there to push my Christian values on anybody,
Right.
because the Constitution doesn't protect my rights. It doesn't protect your rights. It doesn't protect any particular rights in this. It protects everybody collectively.
Right.
So long as you're not doing harm to another person and violating someone else's rights, then
The non-aggression principle.
right. And so the government is supposed to be a neutral arbitrator of the law, and that's it. It's not supposed to sit there and take sides on, because if you look at every stain in American history, it's because the government decided to take views on how we look and think.
Are you guys listening to this man? Are you listening to Patrick?
Because if you look at, you could start with slavery, right?
Yes.
And a lot of people say that the Constitution supported slavery. I do not believe
No.
that to be the case.
No, I disagree.
I do not. If we used the Ninth Amendment the way it was supposed to be used, we didn't need a civil war and a 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. We didn't need a 19th Amendment for women's suffrage.
Yep.
All those things are covered in the Ninth Amendment.
Yes.
And you know, if you look at eugenics and if you look at
every bad thing that's ever happened in this country, the Tuskegee experiments, not euthanasia, but internment camps. Yes, exactly. What is it when not euthanasia, but the stuff like Margaret Sanger and whatever.
Yeah.
Eugenics.
Eugenics,
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, these were all things. So this is what, okay. Patrick was generous enough to give us a copy of his book. So now I'm going to give you a copy of our book.
Okay. I would love that.
Because you get it. Okay. So our book, Reasons to Trust the Government. Okay. Go ahead. Thumb through it.
Oh, well, I have to put my glasses on, but...
No, you don't. No, you don't. That's right.
I could read this book pretty It usually takes me a while to comprehend the book and get through one, but this is pretty good.
But that is literally what we say. The government, like every bad thing that has ever happened, has basically been sanctioned by the government.
That's why I was laughing at the title when you put it out there.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
Reasons to Trust the Government. Newsflash, y'all. There are none. Zero. Here, I'll hold that for you so we can keep talking.
It really gets down to the principle. It's protecting everybody collectively and not sitting there saying, oh, well, you have to have, we have to bring in these things about sexuality and diversity and all these other things. We're all the same.
Yeah.
And I think it was even Morgan Freeman said, he says, I think it was, I don't know, one of the 60 Minutes people was interviewing him, and he was like, well, how do we get rid of racism? And Morgan Freeman just told him, it's like, well, stop talking about it. You know, get it out of there. We're people. We're all the same, you know, that's all. And, And if the government gets out of that business, well, the amazing thing that happens is maybe it gets out of the media's narrative.
Wouldn't that be nice?
And if that gets out of the media's narrative, then what happens?
Then maybe we can actually start to get along.
The people will not be, you know, there's just, everyone just seems so angry. And that's another reason why I was in the Libertarian Party, because I don't want to be angry
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
I've had enough anger in my life to, I don't want that.
Yeah.
I just get along.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you, you still running?
Yeah. Yeah.
The First Amendment's amazing.
Yeah.
The First Amendment protects freedom of speech, freedom of conscious thought. I like to say conscious thought because, but it's written. It's tolerance because our founders were Christian men, but yet you can violate the first two commandments. You can use God's name in vain, free speech, and you can worship whatever god or gods you wish, including being an atheist.
Yep.
And so atheists and people that are trying to do away with Christmas and religion and religious rights, they're actually stomping on their own rights.
Isn't that
so?
Like, don't you guys get the reason why you get to run around being crazy liberals is because of the very document that you are trying to say we should get rid of?
It's it, you know. Everybody follows moral principles of some kind. Everyone believes in the moral code of some kind. Otherwise, we'd all be out there killing somebody. So, and if someone tells me, I say, if God doesn't exist, and you're right, we still had a Bible, and it still influenced our founders, and it's still the first law book.
Yeah.
So it's still, you cannot just rewrite history without the Bible and Christianity and God. You can eliminate God if you want and say, oh, God doesn't exist, but you cannot get rid of that.
Yeah. Yep. That moral law is written on our hearts.
It is. Every society follows some form of moral code.
Yeah.
And no man, I don't know of any man that would write down a list of moral code that they could not meet, because we're too fallible and too selfish to do such a thing.
Yeah.
So there has to be a higher being. But I also get into to science and this and how things like evolution just don't explain everything.
Yeah, like, listen, y'all, here's the deal. Okay, the longer time goes on, the more the Bible is proven true by science.
It is.
You know, even simple things like the command to sing, right? How many times does it say in the Bible to sing or to worship and things like that? Well, guess what? You know what singing does? It activates the vagus nerve, which is the nerve that runs down your entire spine. You probably are familiar.
Cranial nerve number 10. I am very familiar with it.
Exactly. So it's like your vagus nerve, like, basically runs everything else in your body.
Pretty much.
And so there's even little things in the Bible like that when you look scientifically are actually all really good for us physically, emotionally, mentally. I love that you call it the first law book.
It is. And it's not just the 10 Commandments.
Yeah.
It's the whole moral principles of love your neighbor, love as yourself. It's the moral principles of just being kind, of being, generous, and it's a lot more than just
words and parables.
The 10 Commandments, and
although
the 10 Commandments, if you really get into it, they could get it covers a lot more aspects than you think.
Yeah.
So,
well, speaking of generosity, share with our viewers where they can go find out more about your campaign, how people can support you, where do they go to donate, and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so my website is www.patrickbohan.com.
Bohan. Okay.
And on there's ways to donate via PayPal, Venmo.
Cool.
Anybody who's at this conference, I'm under G1, but that's probably they're probably not going to see that before.
All right. Well, hey, you never know. And what's your social media?
I am at on Facebook, Patrick Bohan for Congress
Okay.
as my handle, and then on Twitter it's Patrick Bohan #4.
All right. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you.
I wish you the best of luck. And because we need patriots like you, and I'd love to see some libertarians getting elected. So thank you for taking the time this
Thank you.
afternoon.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right.
Awesome.